right, ladies and gentlemen, so today we're going to be getting into the third section of this big, huge chapter on equations. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at how we can use equations in a different setting. And that setting is going to be in geometry, dealing with formulas. So this is all going to be based on circles. We get into the other shapes later on in the year, but we have to do circles now. And we're going to, again, start off with some vocabulary and go from there. So the radius is the length of any segment whose endpoints are on the center of the circle and a point that lies on the circle. So this is what your radius is going to be, this little line segment right here. It's given the letter R. The diameter is the length of any segment that passes through the center of a circle whose endpoints are on the circle. So this side right here, from here to, ooh, that's bad. We'll try that again. From here to here is your diameter, D, right? So it goes through the center of the circle. What we're going to be focusing on today is the circumference, and the circumference is the distance around a circle. And the formula is C equals pi D. This is a pi symbol. I don't know why my board's acting so weird. So in this formula, it actually looks like we have three variables, but we don't. We have two. We have C and D. And this symbol pi is actually a set number. And it's given the Greek letter, and we use approximations. We either use 3.14 or 22/7. There's also a pi button on your calculator. So if it says if you're not instructed to use one of these, then we always use the pi button. So down here we have two additional vocabulary words. We have something called the half plane, which is half of the circle filled in. All right, so this has to be filled in, which means we're going to be talking about area when we get there. A semicircle is half of the circle not filled in, and we use that one for circumference. Okay, so the following circles are not drawn to scale, meaning that if I were to measure this, this certainly is not 91 feet. But we're going to find the circumference of each circle, and we're going to use 22/7 as an approximation for pi. So when we're using formulas, we're going to always do four things. We have to show the formula, substituting in the numbers, the answer with the correct label. So for over here, so we have C equals pi D. So I know I'm looking for C. I don't have that, so I have to substitute in what I know. I know pi, and I know this is the diameter, the 21. So we're going to use 22/7 times 21. And if you want to put that in parentheses, you can, but no X's. So now when I go to multiply those, I'm going to do this by hand, even though you can use your calculators. But 7 goes into 21 3 times. So 22 times 3 is 66, and we label it centimeters. So formula, substitute in the numbers, give me an answer with the correct label. All right, let's try it for letter B. So here, again, we start with our formula, C equals pi D. This is your D. We know what pi is, we're looking for C. So now we're going to substitute in what we know. 22/7 times 91. And this one's a little bit more challenging, so I'm going to put it on my calculator. And when I do that, I should get 286, and this time my label is feet. All right, now, for letter C, what we have here is this is actually a radius, because it's going from the center here, and which means to get the whole diameter, I have to double this. So I have to do 35/2 times 2, which means my diameter is 35 meters. So when I go to do my formula, that's what I have to put in. So C equals pi D, right? These are still equations. 22/7 times 35. This one I can do by hand. That goes in 5 times. 110. I hope somebody's checking that. 110 meters. So usually they have us use 22/7 when our diameter is something that can be divided by 7, because that helps us get this nice whole number instead of some big long decimal. All right, let's see what's on the next page. The radius, so we're going to underline that. Radius of a paper plate, that's R, is 11.7. Find the circumference to the nearest tenth, and this time they're telling us to use 3.14. Well, my formula, C equals pi d, I need D, this is R, which means to get D, I have to double this. So I have to take this and multiply by 2. Times 2, which means 11.7 times 2, the radius I'm going to be using, or I'm sorry, the diameter is 23.4. So this time we're using 3.14 times 23.4, and I'm going to do that right on my calculator, which gives me, and it tells me to round to the nearest tenth. So I get 73.476. Nearest tenth means, here's your tenths place. What does the number next door tell me to do? It tells me to bump that up, 73.5 centimeters. So we have to make sure we're looking for a couple things, right? Do I have the diameter, or do I have to do something with it and then do it the other way? So this time now, look at same radius, which means my diameter is going to be 23.4 because I've already done that. Find the circumference to the nearest hundredth, but this time we're using our pi button. So pi d, when I use my pi button, instead of putting anything in, I actually keep the pi symbol so that I know I have to hit the pi button on my calculator. So when I do that, you're going to get this really long decimal. Oops. It's 23.4. So your long decimal is going to be 73.513268809. This time we want the nearest hundredth. That's 2 decimal places. So that 3 says leave it alone. So 73.51 centimeters. All right, number 4, a circle has a radius of r centimeters and a circumference of c. Write a formula that expresses the value of c in terms of r and pi. We're going to skip that one. All right, number 5, the figure below is in the shape of a semicircle. Find the perimeter of the shape. So the perimeter means I want to go all the way here and around. So this part I already know is 8. I have to get the around. So that's half of my circumference. So circumference pi times d divided by 2. And I'm doing that because it's half of it. So they told me to use 3.14 for pi. My diameter is right here, all the way across. That's your 8 divided by 2. So 3.14 times 8 divided by 2 is going to give me 12.56 meters. That's just for this part right here, the curved part. So my perimeter is going to be 12.56 plus 8 meters. So my perimeter is 20.56 meters long. Okay, so again, it's another use of our equations. But just like when we would substitute in or to check them, you're going to plug in what you know and do the math from there. Any questions? As always, bring them to class with you. Otherwise, have a good night.